New at 10 now, Todd Kincannon, a Columbia attorney and former executive director of the South Carolina GOP, is free on $5,000 bail.
All of that happening after his wife told deputies she feared for her life. Kincannon was arrested Monday. His wife, Ashley Griffith, telling authorities Kincannon was screaming obscenities at her and driving erratically in Irmo back in late March and stopped her from getting out of their car. We're told Griffith was yelling to other drivers for help.
Now Kincannon is facing some domestic abuse charges. South Carolina ranks at the top of the list for this kind of crime, but state lawmakers and community stakeholders are trying to change that.
Our Tara Pettit joins us live in the newsroom now with more.
Brian, Janet, South Carolina is one of the leading states in the number of domestic violence offenses being reported. There's often a stereotype that domestic violence only involves low-profile, low-income people, but advocates say this could happen to anyone, and this instance is a perfect example of that stereotype being false. A governor's task force has been set up on the issue, trying to alter people's beliefs about the crime. Lawmakers have also passed a bill they say could put a stop to the high number of domestic violence offenses, but it's still far from law at this point.
One of the things this case shows is this is someone who has a very high public profile.
Todd Kincannon, a Columbia attorney and former executive director of the South Carolina GOP, now faced with a criminal charge. Kincannon in front of a judge Tuesday morning, facing domestic violence charges tied to an incident in late March.
We're shocked because it doesn't fit our stereotype of what domestic violence is.
Sarah Barber is executive director for the South Carolina Coalition Against Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault.
We expect this to be a very black and white issue, but with domestic violence, there's so many different dynamics going on.
A representative from the state at Kincannon's hearing said they have genuine concerns about the safety of Kincannon's wife, Ashley Griffith, even though she testified Tuesday that she doesn't want there to be a no-contact order between her and her husband. The state said Griffith's testimony doesn't match up with their evidence.
It's very easy for us to say, well, we would do this, or I would do this, but the truth is we really don't have any idea on how we would react.
The South Carolina Senate passed a bill more than a month ago that Senator Joel Lowry says is the most significant thing the Senate has done to prevent domestic violence in his 18 years of public service. The bill tightens up definitions of domestic violence offenses, addresses no-contact orders, and removes firearms from domestic violence offenders.
If we can remove that gun from the equation, I believe we can save lives.
Senator Lowry says he thinks the gun provision is the most important part of the bill, but it has become a sticking point in the legislature. The House stripped the gun provision from their version of the bill.
Should the House send us a bill back without that provision, in my opinion, we should not pass it.
Regardless of how that measure plays out, Barber says there is a lot more that needs to be done by lawmakers, the community, and in schools to curb South Carolina's poor track record on domestic violence.
It is a crime that affects everybody and that we as a whole state needs to take it seriously.
And the South Carolina Coalition Against Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault is working very closely with Governor Haley on her task force, which is looking at all levels of what the state's response is and how we can improve that so that victims and survivors can access the services they need in all different parts of the state. Live in studio, Tara Pettit, Watch Fox News.